Gunn is a U.S. Army veteran. He also happens to be a Smet counselor. Captain William Gunn, happy Veterans Day. Thanks for joining us here on the Big 550 KTRS.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to join you.
You got it. You signed up for the the military. When and why?
I signed up during my sophomore year of college. September 11th happened during the beginning of my freshman year, and it really, I would say, changed the course of my life. I decided at that point that I wanted to spend some of my career working for the government, working for our society, and I figured that after seeing that, the military would be the best way to give back.
Are you from St. Louis?
Not originally, no. I was in St. Louis at the time. I grew up in South Bend, Indiana.
Okay, gotcha. After serving 2 tours in Afghanistan as an Army paratrooper from 2005 to 2009, you came back to St. Louis, and now your job is a counselor at Smet.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about teaching the young children about the ways of the world.
Sure. Well, I think that a lot of students today grow up in a world that is somewhat removed from, I guess I would say, the unfortunate realities of political violence. Our society is, which is a wonderful thing, moved beyond a lot of the violence that used to be so common in the world. So that today, when students are kind of confronting those things they see in the news, or they read about in the history textbooks, sometimes it's kind of difficult for them to put it in a context that makes sense in their lives. So I think it's nice for them to have somebody to talk to who has seen some of that firsthand. And frankly, I very much enjoy the role because I get to work with students who are just sort of deciding how they're going to see the world, deciding where their place in that is going to be.
So often in society today, we look 16-year-old, the 17-year-old, and marketers and business people and corner offices say, how do we cajole the 16-year-old to buy our product, to listen to our broadcast, to do whatever, and we sort of defer to the 16-year-old. I got to tell you, it sure is nice that you are teaching the 6-year-old the way the world works as opposed to the 16-year-old telling the adults how the world's going to work.
Yes, indeed. I mean, 16 and 17-year-olds are certainly parts of society. You know, I think sometimes they underestimate their own impact, but at the same time, there's still people who definitely need some guidance and some formation before they make it all the way into full-on adulthood. So it's really, I think it's important to expose students to a pretty wide variety of perspectives and let them see where they're going to fit in.
As a college counselor on the campus of Smet Jesuit High School, you have to applaud Smet, too, I think. There are many schools that sort of shy away from talking about military service as an option. And not that you're going to steer every single person to what you did, but it sure does show that they are open and willing to have a frank discussion about all the different options for a young man.
Sure. Smet's motto is "Men for Others," and I think it really this is a good way of demonstrating that. We are trying to create students who are full-on members of society, not just learning about physics and chemistry and history and English, but learning how to be good citizens who can take care of the society of which they're a part. So whether it's through military service or through community service, through becoming an educator, anything that puts them back into society and allows them to give back is in tune with the Smet mission.
I have a cousin who was in the Navy, and he told me, an older cousin, he told me when I was growing up, if you ever join the military, call me. I'll tell you everything you need to know. So for those out there, Mr. Gunn, what advice would you give somebody who is looking at the military today?
Absolutely. The only correct choice is Army Field Artillery. That is critically important. Airborne, if at all possible. But the Field Artillery is really the number one thing that you have to consider. Steel rain. You also, just whatever you do, you really don't want to join the infantry. They will be wandering around in the woods while we in the artillery will be comfortably sitting up on the OP, probably having a nice soda.
William Gunn, I have to ask, there's the Gunn family of St. Louis whose father worked for Boeing, and Kevin Gunn is a friend of the show. Any relation to the Gunns?
You know, I get that question an awful lot. No, I am not related to anyone else named Gunn here in St. Louis other than my wife.
William Gunn, college counselor at the Smet Jesuit High School. He's also a U.S. Army veteran and 2 tours in Afghanistan. Happy Veterans Day, sir, and thank you for your service.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you having me.
624, Big 550.